I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. As always, I am your host, Tycoon. And oh boy, what another crazy week in the NFL in week 2. So much to talk about. Well, we'll start with the most breaking news, which is that Cam Akers has been traded to the Minnesota Vikings. And I am here to tell you it does not matter. Maybe somebody will give you Madison away for free here before this upcoming weekend, thinking that maybe Cam Akers is going to take over that RB1 role. Cam Akers is terrible. You can go ahead and ignore anything that has to do with Cam Akers, except perhaps getting Madison on the cheap. Not somebody you desperately want or need, certainly, but anybody's nice at the right price. And if somebody is desperate to move off him now for something small, some depth piece off your bench, not a bad guy to have. Trying to think. There were a lot of injuries that we had to deal with this weekend. You know what? We're just going to go game by game, and we'll address the news from each team as we go into their games because there's just too much to recap right off the top. Also, I want to note that as we go through any of these prop picks, if I give you a betting line, betting number, that comes from DraftKings Sportsbook, and if it comes from a parlay site, just a pick, which several of them are because there's not much out on the books yet, that comes from Underdog. So we will start with the main course, the most important one here, as it is the most immediate, and that is Thursday Night Football. Giants at 49ers. The 49ers are currently going off as a 10.5 point favorite, and the betting is slightly shaded that way. They are going to be missing several key pieces on the New York Giants side, most notably Saquon Barkley and Andrew Thomas. This is going to be a rough game on a short week on the road for the New York Giants, facing top 3 defense in football and an offense that is clicking on all cylinders right now. Brock Purdy is in total command. Brandon Ayuk may miss the game. We are not going to know until tomorrow. Either way, it's not going to have too much of a material effect for the 49ers. I expect tomorrow to be a Kittle day, actually, as far as the 49ers go. So in this game, you are going to start Daniel Jones. The 49ers, while a great defense, do have major trouble containing mobile quarterbacks. So DJ will get his start all 49ers players. So obviously, you're going to start Purdy, CMC, Debo, Kittle, and that's where you leave it. If he plays, you can take the risk. I probably would just because it's the Giants, but that's really why. And then the only other Giant I would start is Darren Waller. Sit everybody else, sit Matt Breida. If you picked up Matt Breida on waivers, this is not the time to be plugging him in. It's a roulette wheel with the Giants wide receivers. One guy may have a usable day, but it's something I'm going to pass on. On the note of the 49ers having trouble containing mobile quarterbacks, I am going to take Daniel Jones over 37.5 rushing yards. He is not going to have Barkley to lean on at all in the rushing game. Matt Breida is not Saquon Barkley. The receivers are, subpar, so they're going to have trouble getting open at times, even with the 49ers secondary not being incredible, but certainly good. The pass rush is going to get to him too quickly, though, especially with this depleted line. He's going to have to take off, and he already has the second highest scramble rate in football behind only Lamar Jackson. And then I'm also going to take shockingly, Christian McCaffrey under 78.5 rushing yards. I got burned by this in week 1 against the Steelers, but this is one where, excuse me, on the short week, I really do think Shanahan is finally going to trust himself a little bit and ease up on the throttle with Christian McCaffrey just a bit. No need to push it against, again, a depleted team on a short week with a guy who's gotten insane usage in the first 2 weeks. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Take care of McCaffrey, and I trust that you will, Kyle. So under 78.5 rushing yards. We move forward. 2 teams heading in very different directions in the Broncos at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going off a 6.5-point favorite, slightly shaded towards the Broncos getting the points. This is not a game that I am thrilled for on the Broncos side. I absolutely expect that the Dolphins will continue humming just the way they have. This Denver defense early on is not the unit that I expected to see, nor is the offense really. I really thought it was going to look better here with Wilson and Peyton, but no. It's so far still rough. Blowing that lead to the Commanders is a really, really unforgivable thing to do at home. To Sam Howell and the group. They got torn apart by Brian Robinson. I'm not the biggest B-Rob fan. I got to give him all the flowers in the world, though, for his performance this past Sunday. He was incredible, but he should not be able to beat your team like that. That's right, Rafi. Look at this fucking stud. You know it. And that's why you're a friend of the boardroom. You recognize what you see. No, but seriously, this should be a relatively easy win for the Dolphins. I'm not going to touch the spread here, but it shouldn't really ever feel in doubt. So you're going to start, the main core of the Dolphins. Of course, you're going to start Hill, Tyreek, Mostert. Waddle may miss the game in concussion protocol still. If he's active, obviously you play him, but we'll see there. There's really no Bronco that I would feel comfortable starting in this game. Judy, still coming off that hamstring, didn't look particularly good last week. Not Sutton. Mims, I guess, in a deep league, if you think maybe they can connect on another long one. Not Javonte, not Piraned, not Russ. Nothing gross. But what I do like is Javonte Williams under 50.5 rushing yards. Why? Because the Dolphins' offense is, again, not going to have any trouble with this defensive unit. They are not going to be able to give Javonte enough carries to get to 50 yards. My man, Rafi says, my God, I sat B-Rob for Kelly in 2 leagues. I probably would have done the same thing. I only have Brian Robinson in 1 league, I think it is, and he didn't play. Not for me. Thank goodness that team went off otherwise, because that was, I think, 29 points in that league that was sitting on my bench. Rough to see. Rough to see. I didn't play Puka in a couple spots last week either. Also a burner. One of them definitely cost me the matchup. So, underestimated what he was going to be able to do to the Niners underneath last week. He just tore us apart at 7-8 yards at a time. It was ridiculous. Couldn't stop him. I think that's what we were giving up. Prevent the big plays from the Rams overall. Kind of keep Stafford from really using that arm, but still. 15 catches to a guy. Oof, rough. So yeah, Javonte Williams, under 50.5 rushing yards. That is on underdog only at the moment. That is what I am using. We move forward to the Bills at the aforementioned Commanders. The Commanders are 6.5-point underdogs. The Bills 6.5-point favorites, slightly shaded in their favor. This should be a good game for fantasy here. Obviously, again, starting the core players here for the Bills. Excuse me. So you're going to start Josh Allen. You're going to start Stephon Diggs, James Cook. After last week, I cannot advocate benching Brian Robinson, so you're going to start Brian Robinson. The Bills' defense has not been incredibly impressive thus far either. And Terry McLaurin. I'm going to sit Sam Howell, though. I do think this is a bigger challenge than what he's faced so far in Arizona and in Denver. So while they haven't been incredibly impressive, I think it's going to be a big test for Sam. I think they are on a different level than what he saw his last couple of weeks. Also, Antonio Gibson, I'm kind of just done with this guy at this point. And Jahan Dotson, I don't think this is a game for him to shine either. I do think, though, Josh Allen will continue his rebound from a rough week one and go over 258.5 passing yards. You can take that on underdog. Texans and Jaguars. Both teams coming off defeat last week. Not particularly unexpected for the Jaguars facing the Chiefs. The Texans were not able to hold serve at home versus the Colts in a game that they ultimately were favored in. So rough loss. CJ Stroud dealing with some shoulder pain. Otherwise, though, and the Texans are missing like 4 of their 5 offensive linemen, I believe it is. So rough state for them currently. I don't know if anybody's going to be back yet this week, but I do think they will start to regain some health here over the next 2-3 weeks. And I think that's going to help CJ Stroud quite a bit. Hopefully his shoulder recovers in that same time frame. And even though I've been very low on him, it should help Dameon Pierce here in the near future. So in this game, though, with the Jags, really, and Texans, you're going to start most of these players. So start Nico Collins, probably start Dameon Pierce, and then start all the Jaguars. Trevor, Etienne, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. Start them all. Who I would sit, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz here while they are in Jacksonville. First road game for the rookie. CJ Stroud is, pretty good as he's looked. Still, first road test. So I'm going to pull back the throttle here on the rookie for that. I was going to suggest Etienne's rushing yards, but it's just risen. It's risen about 10 yards since last night, or since yesterday, rather. So having lost that edge, we will pass it. I think it's already up to 69.5 now, and that's just too much for me to throw money at. Now we move to the Colts at the Ravens. This is the Ravens have looked very good. The Colts have surprisingly looked not terrible. They took care of business against the Texans. A-Rich was looking very strong. Anthony Richardson before he had to exit the game with a concussion, and they were, they hung around in week one for a while too. So he's looked better than I think many expected him to look as a real life quarterback in the first couple of weeks. And as a fantasy quarterback, a lot of people did expect big things and have received them. He already had 17 points last week before he had to exit again due to the concussion. So hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he'll be able to make his return this week. If he's playing, you start him. You're going to start Lamar. You're going to start Gus Edwards. You're going to start Mark Andrews. You're going to start Zay Flowers. You can sit Zach Moss this week against the Ravens. This is not a great spot for him. You can sit Pittman. Really, the only Colt I'm starting against this strong Ravens team will be Anthony Richardson if he plays. I will not play Gardner Minshew if he plays. And unfortunately, along with Moss, Pittman on the Indianapolis side, I must also say you need to bench Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm sorry, guys, just having a really hard time saying this. It hurts. It hurts a lot. But you're not starting Rashad Bateman. Now, he's only been in on about 50% of the snaps through the first 2 games. He is being eased back in, and I did expect a bit of a slow start. But only 6 targets through those 2 games, even on 50% of snaps, is still not good enough. I'm not dropping him yet, but we're close. And it sucks. Not in Dynasty, but in redraft. Bold predictions. Colts defense shows out. It might. I mean, they haven't been too bad. I expect them to be a horrific unit here in this season, and they have not been. They've not been terrible. Just, I'd say they've been average with some really good moments. I mean, they still have some playmakers on that team, especially Leonard. So it's not like they're totally devoid of talent. And new staff, maybe they're making a bit of a difference. Falcons at the Lions. Now, this is a game I'm extremely interested and excited to watch. It appears that Amon-Ra St. Brown may have turf toe. That is not substantiated, but it is a rumor that's happening. Either way, I believe he was limited or out at practice today. I can't remember exactly. In any sense, I do not believe it was a full practice, and there is concern about a potential toe injury. Hopefully, that's not the case, or foot injury. Either way, until I see something official, I'm really not going to worry. They could put on a steel-plated cleat, protect his foot. I think he'd be all right. He's a tough son of a bitch. I would not worry about Amon Ra in the toughness department whatsoever. In this game, and the Falcons coming off a really nice win over Green Bay. That was a good win. Start Bijan. You can start Drake London. 6 receptions on 7 targets last week. You start Jared Goff. You can start Jahmyr Gibbs. You're definitely going to start Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery went down last week. Thankfully, he covered our prop before he went down, but he did go down. Get well soon there, Monty. Start St. Brown if he plays. And I'm even going to say start Sam Laporta. Start Sam Laporta. I've been against starting these rookie tight ends, and I'm still not buying in fully season long, but I do think this is a nice spot for Laporta, especially if St. Brown is limited in any fashion. So I take the chance. And possibly Josh Reynolds I would play if St. Brown is out. It's going to open up some opportunity here. This game does have an over-under 46.5, which is a good number. I think there will be some points scored. Somebody's got to get them. But yeah, Gibbs and either St. Brown or Reynolds in particular, I think are set up to have great days. You can sit Ritter, Pitts. I think Pitts has a big game coming. I don't think this is the one. Algier, Craig Reynolds, you can sit, and Marvin Jones. Not really excited about anything, but buy into the core skill talent of Bijan and Drake London this week. And I like the Lions to cover here. They're -3 at -118. I think they'll be able to take care of business there at home and make up for a very disappointing loss last week against Seattle. Patriots at Jets. Now, this is a disgusting game. Mac Jones versus Zach Wilson. We've already been subjected to it a few times due to them being in the same division, so we get it twice a year. We did. And this is... Just ugh. I don't even want to talk about it. So I'm just going to blow through this one. You're going to start Ramondre. You are going to start Hunter Henry. You will still start Garrett Wilson. Yes, I know. I understand Zach Wilson's throwing him the ball, but you also saw what he's able to do. If he catches the ball, gets a little room, he can be gone. I'm still going to... Between whether it's 3 wide receiver leagues or 2 wide receiver flex, 3 wide receiver with flex, are there really 35 other receivers on a weekly basis you're going to be wanting to throw out there in front of Garrett Wilson? Seriously? No. Hell no. So you're still playing Garrett Wilson every week. It's that simple. And he'll still have big weeks. Now, the floor in the bad weeks is going to be much worse, but he's still going to have a nice ceiling week to week. And you're going to start Breece Hall in this matchup. The Patriots have not been very good against the run. With Zach Wilson, they're going to have to run. I think Saleh realizes they're really, really going to have to lean on that ground game. So you can start Breece Hall. He is healthy. He looks good. Start him. You can sit Mac Jones. You can sit all the Pats wide receivers. Bourne, Juju, Parker, any of them. Sit Zach Wilson, sit Dalvin Cook, and any other Jets receiver that is not named Garrett Wilson. There are no props I like in this game, no picks for this game, because I want nothing to do with this. Also, not going to be the most fun game to watch, but I think there's intrigue here for me. Titans at the Browns. This is going to look like, it's starting to look like this is one of the worst takes that I had before the season, and that was being high on Deshaun Watson. Now, I understand from a moral, ethical standpoint, I wasn't exactly proud to throw my name behind Deshaun Watson for fantasy ranking purposes, but it's how I felt it would play out. And man, he has just looked like absolute garbage for 2 weeks. For the sake of many of my teams, I hope he can, rebound and bring me points because he's not movable. Who the hell wants him now? But woof. And this is a game where he's going to have the opportunity to do just that. And it's one that he needs to have to really turn his season around, I think. Titans have a great run defense. Now with Nick Chubb, prayers up to Nick Chubb, man. Of all the players in the league, this was one of the worst you could possibly think of to have this injury happen to. Not only an incredible football player, everybody knows that follows the league, possibly the best running back in the league. But a guy who represents everything that's good and pure about the game of football. He is an incredible representative of this sport, of this game, of this league. I just hope he can play again. I hope his leg functions properly for the rest of his life following surgery. I wish nothing for the best for you, Nick, and hope to see you out there sometime next year. Hope you're fully recovered, can keep doing what you love, if it's what you want to do. That was horrible to see. So he's not going to have his all-world running back, Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper was thought to have some kind of groin injury, I believe, before Monday night, but he was able to play. He looked fine, was very productive. David Njoku was looking good, other than, of course, fumbling. But when he had the ball, he had a couple of nice runs after the catch. But yeah, Watson is really, really killing this team. It is rough to see. So I'm kind of leaning towards the under on this game. But 39.5, it doesn't take much to get there, but I don't even know if these teams have the much to get there. So in this game, I will start Derrick Henry. I will start DeAndre Hopkins. We'll start Deshaun Watson. You got to give him this last shot. We'll start Amari Cooper and David Njoku. I will sit Ryan Tannehill, Traylon Burks, sitting Jerome Ford, the other hot waiver wire pickup. He is facing, again, so far what's been the number one rush defense in the league, and going to sit Elijah Moore. While Ford looked good against the Steelers, this is just not the one. Not the one. Oh, now this is one, just from a real life perspective, I absolutely love and really want to see. So this is the Saints at the Green Bay Packers. Here, you will start Chris Olave, you will start Michael Thomas, you will start Tony Jones, maybe, or Kendre Miller. Looks like Miller is going to be active. It's going to be time. I might take the shot on Kendre Miller. Monitor the news here. If it looks like they're downplaying Miller's presence and return here, then maybe stay away and roll with Jones. Either way, give me whoever appears like is going to be the starting running back as we get closer to the weekend. And Christian Watson, if he's active, I would say start. Now, this is one where I'm going to bench the QBs. Don't want Derek Carr. Don't want Jordan Love in these spots. Strong pass defenses. Don't want A.J. Dillon. Don't want Romeo Doubs. Don't want Luke Musgrave. I like the under 42. These are two teams that I'm just really curious to see how they face off each other. I'm curious to see the Saints there in Lambeau, see if they can kind of start to pick up their offense a little more. Maybe not, but I just think this is going to be a good football game. I don't know. I don't think I'm expressing that very well, but looking forward to that one. Now this one, oh baby, Chargers at the Vikings. Two of the most disappointing 0-2 teams in the league. Whew. But man, are there going to be points scored in this game? You are starting every fucking buddy that you have from these teams here this week. Even Joshua Kelly. Now, I don't think he's a particularly wonderful replacement for Eckler. We've seen what he's done when he's had the opportunity to fill in a full game. That said, the Vikings defense is horrific. The Chargers defense is also terrible. Cam Akers stinks, by the way, so you're still starting Alexander Madison in this game. I don't know if we mentioned that. Of course we did. But yeah, you're starting everybody. So Herbert, Allen, Kelly, Williams. Hell, I'd probably even start Everett. You're starting Cousins. You're starting JJ. You're starting Addison. And Madison. Madison. Let's go. Maybe, not KJ Osborne, not after those drops. I think he lost that wide receiver 2 job. I think that's Addison's now. We will see against the Chargers. But there is going to be a bonanza of points. Take them. Love them. Panthers at Seahawks. Panthers going out west. Bryce Young getting to experience what it is like to play up there in Lumen Field. And he's going to struggle. Oh, baby, he's going to struggle. This should be a pretty easy win for the Seahawks. The only Panther I'm even going to consider starting is probably Adam Thielen. But I am starting Geno, Kenneth Walker, DK, and Lockett. Sitting Jackson Smith and Jigba, Bryce Young, Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst. I do love Kenneth Walker in this game. Take Kenneth Walker the third over 62.5 rushing yards. Give it to me. I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball. They're going to be ahead. It's going to be some smash mouth Pete Carroll football. And gross game. Cowboys Cardinals, best defense in the league so far versus what will be, when all said and done, probably the second worst team in the league. That somehow the Bears are worse. Start all your Cowboys. Start James Conner. Sit all your Cardinals, except James Conner. Pollard's going for 75 yards rushing Sunday. Pollard over 74.5 rushing yards on underdog. The last game of the afternoon slate here is probably the worst fucking game on this horrific schedule. This is not a good schedule this week. Bears at Kansas City. Well, the Bears defensive coordinator resigned today. There's all kinds of rumors about FBI investigations and Hollis Hall being raided in Chicago and Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator's home, being raided by the FBI. I don't know what is and isn't true. All I know is it doesn't look good. And even what looks even worse is the Chicago Bears on the football field. The tenor around the team. When Justin Fields was asked why he looked so robotic, he blamed the coaching. So we're not in a we're not in a upward trajectory here for the Chicago Bears. Let's put it that way. There is trouble in Chicagoland. This very well may be the worst team in the league, and they are off to face Kansas City. Travis Kelce is now going to be in his second game back, hopefully shaking the effects of that injury off there in week 2 at Jacksonville. Start Mahomes and Kelce. I'd even start Pacheco and even Sky Moore in this game. This is just going to be so bad. I do like Kelce over 71.5 receiving yards. This is just what a tremendous get-right game available for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is just what the doctor ordered. Bring in the Bears. At home. Whew. You thought there was noise around the Bears right now. When they get shellacked by, I don't know, 30 here by Mahomes. I mean, Chiefs 12.5. I didn't do very well on the spreads last week, but I'm taking 12.5. Kidding me? Because the Chiefs defense actually has looked pretty good. And now Chris Jones will be in his second game back. Little better game shape anyways. Not quite at game shape. Haven't missed all of camp in week 1, but each week will be progressively better. Now we get into prime time, baby. Prime time. Sunday night football, a classic rivalry. The Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders are favored here, which is crazy, except it's not, because the Steelers maybe have the worst offense in football. Probably the worst offense in football. Matt Canada needs to go. You poor people of Pittsburgh. I feel for you. I really do. I know a lot of Steelers fans. I couldn't even talk to my coworker this week. I'm going to try to wait till... I know they won, but knowing him, he's still incredibly pissed off, and I don't blame him. We'll resume that conversation another time. That said, yes, things are tough for that Steelers offense. Najee Harris looks terrible. The offensive line is worse. I think I saw a stat today that the Steelers as a team have zero rushes without contact before reaching the line of scrimmage, or 0 yards after contact with the line of scrimmage, something like that. They're getting They're opening no holes, getting nowhere. Either that or both Najee Harris and Jalen Warren lack vision in such a severe way, which is not really the case. The line is bad. Don't worry. Except worry, because you can't play any of these guys. Um, what I can say is the defense for the Steelers has also been decent. They might have a chance to turn Jimmy over and maybe have a chance to still win this game, but the Raiders should be considered the favorite. So in this game, I'm going to start Josh Jacobs. This will be a good get-right game for him, too. The Pittsburgh run defense has been very vulnerable, getting eaten up by Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, and Jerome Ford. You can start Devontae Adams. They'll be able to keep the defense on just a little bit with Jacobs rushing, and Devontae will have his opportunities. You're not going to be able to contain the elite that long. Jalen Warren, I would still feel comfortable starting. If he can get some space on some screens, dump offs, then he still has the juice to be very electric and at least pick up some valuable fantasy points. George Pickens, just for the hopes he can break off a big one. You're just hoping for the home run with him. And maybe Freiermuth with Deontay Johnson out. You can sit Jimmy in this matchup. You can sit Kenny Pickett. And you can sit Najee Harris. Forever. Not forever. I love Najee. He's my favorite human. But he's not a good running back, and he's in a horrible spot right now. Very rough. This is why we faded him. In a couple of weeks, maybe after week 4, we'll take a look at some of our biggest flag plants and some of the biggest fades, see how we're doing on them. Najee and Fields certainly looking good for us, but oof. What was the other one I was thinking of that but being high on Watson, not so good. Deshaun Watson, that is. And thus David Njoku so far, not really paying off yet. So there's some give and take. In this game, though, I do like Jacobs over 63.5 rushing yards. Actually, I think that changed, and that's why it's not on the ticker. I'm going to double check. Yeah, he's up at 71.5. Wow. So, like ETN, almost a 10-yard jump since yesterday. I'm going to pass at the 71, even though I think he's going to hit it, but I'm not going to bet it at that. And we move to another Monday night doubleheader. I don't understand why there's a second Monday night doubleheader, even though it's not really a doubleheader because the games go on concurrently. Very frustrating. I still choose the West Coast every time, but I hate it because one of these games starts at 4 o'clock and I'm not even home yet. Super annoying. Thankfully, though, it's just the Eagles at the Buccaneers that this will be the case for. The Eagles are 4.5-point favorites here on the road in Tampa. Tampa has looked surprisingly good. The Eagles really don't look cohesive yet. They're still getting things together for this season. While they are 2-0, they've been, I don't want to say unimpressive in the process, but clearly they are not clicking yet. This is not the same team. The defense in particular, not the same unit. This is not an elite unit like it was last year. It's not. It is not in the tier of the 49ers, the Cowboys, anybody like that. And thus, I think they are third in the NFC for that reason. The offense, I think, will look smoother as they go. And we would be remiss if we didn't just give a big for our boy, DeAndre Swift. I mean, you give him the work and you see what happens. And I understand it was against Minnesota. That's not lost on me. But still, 28 carries, touchdown, 175 yards, touchdown. Could have had 2 more, was tackled at the 1 twice. Story of his life, I swear to God. Should have been a 40-burger. Wasn't quite. That's okay, though. He looked incredible in the process, just so explosive, so much just juice, so much energy. He's got wiggle. Kenneth Gainwell could never. He wishes. Boston Scott, please. Rashad Penny, get out of here. Far and away the best back. And hopefully on that team. And hopefully Nick Sirianni will treat him accordingly in the coming weeks. Now, I know he's going to have some loyalty to Gainwell. So when Gainwell returns, I believe this week, I do expect us to be back closer to some kind of 50-50 split. I don't anticipate DeAndre Swift getting 28 carries again anytime soon, if ever again. But hopefully they'll try to get the ball in his hands as much as they really think they can because of what we saw. He looked fantastic. It felt very validating, I'll tell you that. Had him started everywhere, even after, what was the 1.9 point week 1. Told you not to worry about it. If you listened, you were handsomely rewarded. You're going to start all the Eagles in this game. even though they're on the road, the Buccaneers. Offensively, really not that worried. So go ahead and start Jalen, AJB, start Devontae Smith. Dallas Goddard actually is the guy I'm probably going to hesitate on. Don't start Goddard. You can start Swift. Don't start Gainwell. When I say, I just mean usually the position I should have. So I'm going to start over. Start Hurts, start Brown, start Smith, start Swift. Bench Goddard, bench Gainwell. Until Goddard really gets going, I want no part of him. Scott Fishbowl, you could start him, but that's it. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. You're still going to start Goddard. It's along the same logic of Pitts for me. In general, who's the alternative, right? You probably don't have a better option to throw out there that you hope is going to do better in any realistic sense. So I take that back. You'll start Goddard. Gainwell is the guy you're not going to start, though. And for the Buccaneers, start Rashad White, start Chris Godwin, start Mike Evans. I'm going to bench Baker here against the Eagles. Not because I think he's going to do that poorly. He's at home, again, against a defense that I just mentioned is not an elite unit anymore. But I don't think he's going to be able to work all over him either. He's not going to be able to throw the ball over the yard against him. A decent game, but it's probably going to be one of those mid QB2 type performances. So he's already going to be starting for you in Superflex as it is, given how the league is shaken out this year. But in one QB, of course not. And finally, part 2 of the Monday night doubleheader. The Rams travel to Cincinnati to take on the 0-2 Bengals in a Super Bowl rematch from a year and a half ago. We'll see if the Bengals really have revenge on their minds. Joe Burrow's status is in doubt. Calf issue reappeared towards the end of week 2. The Bengals have been all out of sync. Granted, tough matchups to start, but especially poor in week 1 against the Browns. And yeah, again, turned in another uninspiring performance against the very strong Baltimore Ravens. That said, I would still start T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They're just, unless it really takes a nosedive here in Cincinnati, got to play him. I am going to sit Burrow, though. I'm not afraid to sit Joe. I'm going to sit Joe Mixon, too. I'm going to start Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, no problem. And I'm going to sit Tutu this week. I think this is probably going to be a lower scoring game than some figure. And I actually think the Rams are going to keep this pretty close, pretty competitive. I mean, that's reflected here in the line. Bengals only -2.5 right now, which that tells me they do expect Burrow still to play. I think if Burrow is declared out, Rams become the favorite immediately. But even with Burrow, I think Stafford is going to be able to keep him right there against this Bengals defense. Even on the road, the offense has performed well. The Rams are better than I think we thought they were. Sometimes just losing somebody for a good chunk of a year, not seeing them enough, you tend to lose a little respect for some of their abilities, I suppose. But Matthew Stafford is still a very good quarterback, and he's got rookies that are, a rookie that he's got full trust in here, and Puka Nacua, somebody I think is going to be able to keep a strong role even when Cooper Kupp comes back. And Kyron Williams, just kind of by default, because Cam Akers is the worst. There was no reason to not make Williams the guy. And we'll see if Zach Evans gets a shot here with the Rams now that Akers is out of town. See if he backs up and see if they give him a little run. As a raw, just like talent, he may be just as good. I don't know if he's as good of a player, but from a pure physical and talent perspective, I think he's right there with Williams. We'll see. And that wraps it up here for week 3. Make sure you are keeping up at the Discord on Twitter, although I don't post as much on Twitter anymore. Everything gets suppressed. I refuse to pay Elon for verification. I just won't do it. It's not going to happen. So Twitter's been less active. I still post occasionally on there. Really, just follow the show. Get in the Discord. Link is in the description below. That's where you can, get the most up-to-date picks. So the way it generally works, you, the viewers, if you're watching live, watching this before Thursday or even on Thursday, you will get the most early picks from me. Following that, generally on Thursday night, I will post, I'll take these picks, put them on the Discord. Sometimes it'll be Friday. So again, more advantageous to watch here. But yeah, I'll post them Thursday night or Friday night to the Discord along with anything new that I've come across in the meantime. And yeah, add them some more on Saturday. Usually a couple more that I find, while I'm screwing around on Saturday. And we get those picks locked in for the weekend. And of course, all the full recaps, any thoughts, opinions, other further discussion. We have some good trade discussion, lineup discussion, waiver discussion going on with a few core people over on the Discord right now. So if you want to go over there and be part of that and help just get a few more voices in the room, get a few more opinions if you care to hear them, that's your spot. We've got some really good minds available to help you make the correct decisions, or at least the best decisions possible with the information that you're given at the time. So yes, go check out the Discord, because it's also not just me. Boy Fox, Boy Bill, there's people there that are here to help, sharp fantasy players available at your whim, or at least just about. Before I go, of course, got to do the plugs. Please, if you take these picks, take them to Underdog, use our code ROGUE. That will get you a 100% deposit match up to $100, or on your first $100 deposited, put in 100, get to, play through it, let's go, let's make money. Same thing on Prize Picks, use code ROGUE. You will get a 100% deposit match on your first $100 deposited. And also, don't forget about Sleeper. It is nice to be able to have, a pick'em feature that is in there already with the fantasy app that you're in so regularly. It's just another tab. You don't have to go to another app. So there is a level of convenience there. And if you do, and you have not played pick'em yet, and you go to make a deposit, make sure you do so using the code RF-FF_Tycoon as your referral code. And you will get a match on your first $25. So put in 25, you'll have 50, and that's just fine. It's fine to have a smaller balance over on Sleeper. There's generally more options available on the other sites, generally more promotions. So there's advantages to being on all three. Don't be shy about it. So use those codes, get some free money, and then make some bets so we can get some even more free money. Lastly, before we get out of here, I do want to also plug our other show, the other Rogue Nation show, Rogue Fantasy show, Rogue Bets show, and that is the Premier Betting Show. That generally comes online here Friday mornings, Friday afternoons for those of you in the East Coast, on the East Coast, whatever, Eastern time zone. West Coast Friday mornings, featuring me and Fox. We cover the English Premier League. We get you the best bets every weekend and get you prepped. We're on a nice run to start the year, the first 5 weeks. Hopefully we continue to keep that rolling. Had some success in the Discord. Again, make sure you're in the Discord. Very successful between Fox and myself. Up over 5 units in the Champions League in those 2 days. So make sure you're checking us out. And that's that. Man, long day. Sorry if I was a little scrambly, a little off on this particular Wednesday. It's been a week, been a day. So please forgive me. And even for this awkward sign off. Next week is my birthday. I don't think it'll interrupt the show. If it does, I'll try to post something again on the Discord or on Twitter and let you know what the alternative may be. But yeah, it will be my birthday exactly next week. So hell yeah. With that, have some fun. Go watch these games. There's only a few real good ones. A lot of ugly football, I think, ahead for us in week 3. Just enjoy. Make sure you're being aggressive in trading on your fantasy teams if you're 0-2. Make sure you're also just paying very close attention to injury and movement news. See if you can catch somebody slipping. Be as current on your information as possible. Get things done. Don't give up on rookies too early. That's a JSN, Jordan Addison. Nobody's given up on Jordan Addison. He scored twice already. Maybe give up on Quentin Johnson so far, but a lot of these guys, think about guys you drafted. Just don't be giving up on too many of you guys after 2 weeks is the point. Even Rashad Bateman, maybe a week or two away from it, but don't jump the gun too early. You drafted them for a reason, and some of these guys you knew were not going to pop off early. So just be patient, be smart, pay attention. And if you want to talk it out, again, get in the Discord. We'll talk. We'll help you work out whatever issues you may be having with your rosters. Just come join us, please. All right, for reals this time. With that, have a great week 3, everybody. Go kick ass. Let's go win. As always, let's win together. And this meeting is adjourned.